Welcome to Farm Digest with news for and about Tennessee's #1 industry, agriculture. Brought to you each week at this time by this station and the Tennessee Farm Bureau Federation. Here's your host, Murray Miles.
And a very pleasant good morning to you. We're here each weekend at this time and always happy to have you join us. When Lamar's Ivy, better known as Cotton, was named Tennessee's Commissioner of Agriculture a year ago, he was well known across the state and even out of state because of his television commercials and appearing on Hee Haw. He has a serious side, though, and doing a good job as commissioner. We had a nice long visit with him a few days ago in his office, and today we have the first of 3 parts of that visit. Cotton, when you came into office about a year ago, you may have been the best-known Commissioner of Agriculture state's ever had.
Well, Murray, at least I knew where all the counties were, and I'd served in the legislature and made a lot of contacts through Farm Bureau and other organizations through the years, and felt that I did know a lot of ag-right people.
You know, I won't tell the name of this commissioner, but when he was appointed several years ago, he came by to see me and he says, "Tell me how to get to the Ellington Aquaculture Center. I've never been there."
Well, it's the most beautiful place in Nashville, and it belongs to all the taxpayers of this state, but in particular, it belongs to all the folks interested in agriculture. And so we extend to everybody a welcome, especially in the spring when the iris are blooming, the dogwoods and the squirrels are running, and outside our speed bumps, well, you'll find it real nice out here.
Had to put a few speed bumps in. You had some folks kind of rushing through the grounds, didn't you?
Well, the urban folks just about had taken us over. We clocked 5,000 automobiles by count came through this campus in 24 hours. So we almost had to protect the folks that want to use it for agricultural interest. We really had to do this. So I'm now known as Commissioner Speed Bump.
Tell us about how Ellington Agriculture Center got to be here.
Well, I think it was originally known as the Caldwell Estates, and of course Buford Ellington, which is a name known through all agriculturalists in this state, was instrumental in this 207-acre tract being set aside for the Department of Agriculture, and it's beautiful and probably one of the prettiest in the United States of America.
And the office here, the building that houses your office, actually is a replica of the Hermitage almost.
I understand it is that Mr. Caldwell wanted it to be a replica of the Hermitage. And Murray, on the humorous side, media came the first week and said, "What's your top priority?" And I said, "My real top is to keep the other commissioners from coming out here and finding out that we are out here." So I enjoy it.
It is a great place, and no other state has anything like this.
That's very true.
Last year in agriculture in Tennessee turned out pretty good for us.
Turned out real good. We had a normal year. Rainfall was more normal. We had the best corn year we have ever had in the history of time, and 107 bushels per acre. Now, when I think back to Yellow Jarvis and Neil's Paymaster and a lot of those old open pollinated varieties, I think that was a miracle. You know, we wanted to get to 40 or 50 bushels, but we did have a 107 bushel average. We didn't do that well in soybeans, 24 bushel, but we got them planted late, and there was a lot of reasons. But we had the best hay year in the history of farming in Tennessee.
And we needed it.
And we needed it. We were down on hay, and incidentally, we found out last year by an equine survey, we have 178,000 equine in the state of Tennessee, and they're a prime prospect for hay, good quality hay. So we've got to get our hay folks and our equine folks together in this state, and it promises to be of mutual benefit.
Tobacco crop was fair.
Just fair. I think through the last few years we kept going to lowland and planting our tobacco because we'd had the drought years, and the lowland, the lower we planted it, the worse off we were this year. It kind of caught us, but overall not as bad as at one time we thought.
Tobacco sales are up overseas, so they're asking folks to plant a little more this time.
That's very true. Our domestic sales here were down a little bit, but overseas picked us up, and of course all of us are hoping that through some form of medicine or whatever other avenues other than smoking or chewing, that the future of tobacco will be a little brighter, because it's an integral part of Tennessee, and it's our third leading cash crop, and it's sent a many and a boy to college, a boy and a girl to college, and it's important.
Our livestock industry is important. We haven't mentioned that.
No, you know, until I became Commissioner of Agriculture, I really didn't realize that we had 1 million brood cows. And we are an important state. We recently had our National Cattlemen's Convention out at Opryland, and folks informed us that we had the highest feeder calf price in the United States. So, you know, they're beginning to look at our feeder calves, and of course, I guess our feeder pig sales have always dominated the Southeast, and our pseudo-rabies program, our brucellosis programs are just par excellence in comparison to other Southeastern states. So, you know, somebody said, how do you feel about the department? Well, we need a lot of money, but I can strut sitting down looking at a lot of the things that we have done and are doing.
We did a good job with our livestock, and there are folks who say, well, you know, we ought to be having that land that all those cattle are on in crops for people and quit eating all this meat. You can't do that land in Tennessee that way.
No, you'll never be able to do that. I made a statement at the Farm Bureau meetings that if we had the harvest of the 80s, if we had to depend upon getting the harvest of the 80s from the technology of the 30s and 40s, we'd have to convert 75% of all the pasture and 60% of all the forest land into cropland. But we'll never do that. You know, we've got to use the technology that we have.
Well, Tennessee's got too many hillsides that you couldn't convert to cropland in the first place. Pasture's all it can be used for.
That's exactly right. We're just natural. And incidentally, they tell us we have more bluegrass in Kentucky. So we're a big cow-calf state and always will be and ought to be as we look into the future.
But let's talk about your background a little that got you here.
Well, I guess I was uniquely prepared in that, for instance, with Farm Bureau, my dad, who was 90 last week, has been insured with Farm Bureau since, however, 40 years. And of course, then I went to work for Farm Bureau with the Tennessee Farmers Mutual Insurance Company, and incidentally was there when Tennessee Farmers Life Insurance Company was formed, and that's been one of my proud, you know, I led the state in those first 3 months and received the Clyde York plaque, and I still have that, and I'm proud of that. But then I went into the legislature, and I got to see agriculture, served on the Ag Committee from the legislative standpoint. And then the governor appointed me as commissioner, and for a year now I've been looking at it from the executive branch. And it gives you, the many-sided view gives you some ideas of why you can't do something real fast like I thought everybody used to do. I thought you'd just say, do it, and it's done. But there are levels of bureaucracy that I've learned to deal with. It's kind of like milking that old cow with cuckleburrs in her tail. You know,
You slapped every once in a while.
you get slapped every once in a while, and you get ready for it, and you move your stool back some.
We run into all kind of problems across the state. One that you and I ran into recently when the Tennessee fruit and vegetable folks met. They're having a problem about folks finding their pick-your-own places because of some highway beautification laws. They can't put up signs.
That's so true, Murray, and fruits, and we're only producing about 7% of the fruits and vegetables Tennesseans eat. And we're looking to fruits and vegetables as an alternative crop to replace maybe tobacco and other crops that are depleting the soil and have erosion. But we're running into federal laws, and we hope not too many state laws, because I believe we have a governor that will help us with that. But our signs, a person that is producing, a farmer that's producing fruits and vegetables off the road, he is so dependent on that good-looking sign to direct the people into where his produce is. So, and we have some highway officials that say, well, you can put it up a little while, but then you have to take it down, and it's been the kiss of death when we find one, and we're just real frustrated at this point. And the fruit and vegetable people have appointed a committee along with Farm Bureau and 2 or 3 of our folks, and we're going to delve into this with the governor as soon as we can, because we feel it's important. Tennessee products is our big marketing thrust, and they're the freshest, they taste better, and we just can't see an obstacle about not being able to find them. We've got to do something about that, but it is a real problem, and one that the fruit and vegetable owners have been fighting for a couple of 3 years now.
Well, it's just as important to that consumer who wants that good fresh fruit and vegetables right off the farm out there.
Sure. I mean, Pick your own is now, that's really the way we market a lot of our fruits and vegetables. So if you're going to pick your own and the fella has it, it's like finding a needle in a haystack. It's just something we must address as soon as we can, with as much clout and vigor as we have too.
You're making some progress on farm markets across the state where folks can meet the farmer at the market.
Well, we, after much controversy and discussion, we placed the farmers market in Morristown, White Pine, $2.5 million grant, and we have $200,000 grant down at the Alatin Co-op in Lincoln County. Now that'll serve several counties around there. Then we have the Cannon County Hydro Cooler, about a $50,000 grant, and almost ready to be announced is an expansion of the retail market on Agri Center in Memphis, Tennessee.
That'll be a good one because the folks are swamping there right now for that smaller market they've got.
Oh, they're just buying everything they have. And when you have markets in an area like they have down there, the ability to buy is real important. And this is an affluent area out around Germantown, and they are buying everything the farmers bring in. So we want to look into that. We want a market that farmers can use in West Tennessee, and also maybe other areas of the state that we're looking at, because the governor said he wants to address this in all 3 grand divisions.
You mentioned the Tennessee Products Program that you're involved in, and that's done a great job for us. And some of those things are labeled where folks can be sure they're buying Tennessee products, are they not? That's
very true. They're labeled, and we're featuring a Tennessee product each month. And it's from strawberries to soybeans in November. And Joe Gaines has done a real good job. I inherited a lot of good people that do a good job, and I'd like to publicly say that. And a lot of times it goes unheralded, and we're regulatory by nature. A lot of the things we do are regulatory, but we promote. And it's our job to promote agriculture. And the marketing division's done a great job. And we're right now, another little thing, Murray, is aquaculture we're looking at.
Yeah.
Mississippi jumped way ahead of us on catfish, and so did Alabama. But Arkansas has the rice, and they have pumped all the water, or a lot of water, out each year, and our aquifers are full. I think Tennessee is just right for aquaculture development. Maybe a hybrid striped bass in lieu of catfish, or maybe and some catfish, but we're looking.
You mentioned seeing some hybrid striped bass up in Louisville recently.
I really did, Murray. They had removed every stress from those fish except crowding. And they had 3 striped bass per gallon of water. I could not believe that. I mean, even I could catch a fish as thick as they were. You could snatch a fish out of there.
Cotton, you and I both were children of the Depression, and I think the worst advice my mother ever gave me was eat everything on your plate.
Yeah, eat. She said, they're starving in China, and I would clean my plate, And finally one day I said, Mama, name one. And she could never name a Chinese that had starved. But the other night, I love food, and the older I get, the more I dream about every meal, what is coming up. We talk about it. And the other day, though, I got to looking at myself, and I said, how on earth is this helping the Chinese? The doctor told me to watch my weight, and I've got it out there where I'm watching.
To keep your eye on it.
Keeping my eye on it. And one time he told me, Murray, he said, I'm going to have to take you off bread. I said, how on earth, what will I use to sop gravy with? I love it. I love food.
We've had some problem around, particularly in West Tennessee. There's a little bit of a hunter, wildlife versus farmer down in some of this wetland issue, and I'm concerned about that. I know you are too.
I surely am, Murray, and by statute, I'm a member of the Tennessee Wildlife Resources Agency, and I'm a hunter. I love to hunt ducks and quail. Somebody asked me, what's it going to be like in heaven? And I say, kind of like when you train a bird dog, and that covey flushes, and you knock one down and that pup brings it to you. I love sports and I love hunting. But you have to put first things first. Agriculture is on top of the priority pole. And unless we recognize that as a society, we're going to be in deep trouble. And I shared with the folks the other day, I said, what do you do in a duck blind? You go down there and you put your blocks out, and oftentimes you wait. And while you're waiting, you eat. You bring ham, biscuit, you cook sausage, you fry the eggs, and then you can't wait until here comes dinner time, and you're frying up hamburgers, and you're eating. Now, if you had a choice between eating and hunting, I'm telling you what you will do. I'll tell this to all you sports folks, you will eat. It is basic. It's top. It's the top priority. And the reason we have a lot of philosophers that argue about snail darters and pesticides and herbicides and a lot of the things in life is because they've never been hungry. They have never, and I'm not talking about religious hunger where you fast, but I'm talking about honestly and truly hungry from a lack of food. And that's a basic thing. And what we need to do is get our act together and put it at the top of the priority pole. So over in West Tennessee, when we have hardwoods, bottomland hardwoods that are flooded, where we're trying to say what is important, production agriculture versus sporting land, there's no choice. It's that we have our priorities different. You don't order water ski for lunch. You don't order bass fishing for lunch, and both may be real good, but in its proper place. Now, production agriculture is number one, and we need to treat it with tender love and care, and we need to give it top priority. So when we're talking about wetlands and trying to describe a wetland, what we need to do is to find out, has this been in production agriculture? Has this produced crops? Will it produce crops? And then treat it accordingly. That's my opinion.
Well, we've got land down there that is, sure enough, wetland. We've also got a lot of, it's not true wetland. It's artificial wetland where those rivers have backed up because beaver dams and other things.
Sure, see, and folks will talk swamp land and then production agriculture land that is temporarily flooded in the same breath, and that's not true.
But you get sued when you try to drain the artificial one.
Well, that's a shame. That is certainly a shame. Property rights, what this country was built on. And it frustrates all of us in that regard.
Thank goodness that's just in one part of the state.
That's very true. Just, as a Commissioner of Agriculture, Murray, I guess one of the greatest revelations I had was the number of people that live in really eastern, middle, and East Tennessee. And seem like, their farms may be smaller, but they do a real job with those farms. Now, I know the soil type is a little different than I'm a West Tennessean, so I can talk about us. But we've got a higher rate of erosion than we need over there. And these folks seem that they have that pride of ownership, and they're taking care of it a little bit better than us West Tennesseans. And I couldn't say that if I was not from West Tennessee. They know I love them. But it's a precious commodity that our Creator's given us, and that's soil to produce food and fiber for this society. And we're producing the most wholesome, nutritious, best food in the world for the lowest price any group of human beings ever had a chance to buy.
Well, folks in West Tennessee have improved a lot because of no-till agriculture. However, there are those folks who want to take away the chemicals from that, so do we go back to erosion again?
Well, I said in the beginning, if we had the harvest of the 80s and the technology of the 30s and 40s, we'd have to clear it all, folks. And then you talk about erosion and you talk about things that we couldn't stand. A lot of folks, a lot of scientists, and they think that muddy water will kill you, Uncle Ib said one time it had rained real hard, Murray, and he said, how hard did it rain? He said, it beat the mud out of muddy water. I hope it doesn't rain that hard this year.
I tell you what, we had a lot of it last year, but it did help us, as we said a couple of weeks ago, getting our hay crop back.
Murray, maybe we're going to have to approach some of these scientists in a left-handed manner. I remember being born in the Depression, like you said, where, not the recession, but the depression. And I can remember when we had rabbit sausage without anything mixed in it, straight rabbit. And we didn't have a shotgun shell to shoot the rabbit with either. We had to run that rabbit till he got tired and went in a hole in the ground. And then we'd cut a big long stick and slice the end of it, and we'd run that stick up in that hole and try to get hold of that rabbit and pull him out. And those rabbits got smart, and they started turning the way we were twisting, and it got hard to get rabbits. But there's a left-handed boy moved in that community, and he nearly cleaned that country out of rabbits before they caught on what he's doing.
Tennessee's Commissioner of Agriculture, Lamar, better known as Cotton Ivy, a joy to be around. That's it for this time. We'll see you next weekend again on Farm Digest.
Join us again next time for Farm Digest with Murray Miles, Director of Information of the Tennessee Farm Bureau.